You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Folks, as of today, there are 391,632 cases of COVID-19 in the United States and 3 U.S. territories. 12,558 patients with the virus have died. That's nearly double yesterday's number. That's 2,863 more people than this time yesterday. 21,561 patients have recovered from the virus. In his briefing today, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo showed where most of the cases are.
New York is still the most heavily impacted state in the nation. New Jersey, which is on the curve a little bit behind New York, is suffering. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with them. I spoke to Governor Murphy of New Jersey today, and we talked through the situation and working on joint strategies, but our heart goes out to all of our neighbors in New Jersey, Michigan, California, Louisiana. In terms of how we're operating, how we're managing the situation, as we know, the hospital system basically is a three-legged stool. It relies on number of beds, number of staff, and the equipment. Number of beds, we have started with a system of about 53,000 beds statewide. We're up to about 90,000 available beds, so we have more than enough beds available.
A disproportionate number of those infections and deaths are African Americans. Joining me right now is Congresswoman Karen Bass of California, who is the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Congresswoman, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We see what's happening in Louisiana, where the number of deaths have increased. We look at what is happening in Michigan as well. We're hearing out of Chicago, Georgia, Mississippi. The reality is black people are being greatly impacted by coronavirus. What is going to be done specifically to target this community because the numbers are dire?
Absolutely. And I don't think that we should be shocked by that, because if you take any health issue, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and you look at the health status of white people compared to black folks, all you have to do is double the numbers in terms of we get twice as many black folks with diabetes, hypertension, lung disease, et cetera. And so that makes us at greater risk for COVID. Now, in my opinion, what needs to be done now, given that we see these numbers, there needs to be focused, concentrated testing in areas where the population is more at risk. And then the test needs to be turned around very quickly. So what I have learned recently is that there are doctors around the country who want to get access to machines that will allow them to rapidly process the tests, but the federal government, the administration, will not allow them to have access to the machines. The machines are costly. Some doctors I have spoken with have told me they have the money for the machines, but they're not being released. And so our people need to be treated aggressively. It needs to be diagnosed quickly. What I am worried about is that our people are being sent home, told to isolate themselves, and then when they get really, really sick, they go to the emergency room, and by that time, it's too late. Roland, I worked in the emergency room in Los Angeles, one of the largest emergency rooms in the country at the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And so this is really deja vu to me, very similar situations. And so knowing what happened then and knowing what happens to us generally when we encounter the medical field, there has to be specific focused attention. You can't do everything addressing the population as a whole. If you have 3 times the amount of deaths in one population, then obviously that population needs targeted attention.
Well, one of the things that, Anthony, go to my iPad, please. The Hill has this story. States battle each other for equipment in supply chain crunch. And this is part of the problem. What Donald Trump has created a situation where you have states competing against one another. The federal government has not done what they were supposed to do. And so this turns into just a big old, great thing for big business to make more money.
Well, the thing that's so ironic about it is that he flirts with being an authoritarian. And here is where authoritarian leadership is needed, in the sense that he should take control of the national supply and it should be allocated based on need. What he has done that you have described is that he has turned this into a free market situation. So not only do you have states bidding against each other, you have the federal government coming in and underbidding states and taking the equipment. This is one of the most insane things that has probably happened in U.S. history, where the president, who wants to be an authoritarian, abdicates responsibility and turns the U.S. population over to the market. So we're all part of the marketplace. And depending on your state, such as a state like Georgia, where you have mayors that are trying to do the right thing and follow the public health protocols, and you have a governor that comes in and says, no, I'm going to override what a city wants to do. But, you also have a TV station, Trump's TV station, that is putting out absolute misinformation. I was watching the other night on some of the famous programs that the president likes, and they were saying, well, we have a cure for this. It's really not that bad. You can go buy this or get a doctor to prescribe you this medication. They put on people that supposedly were cured by this medication, presenting this false hope. So you have people, and when they've done polling, you see that Republicans and Democrats poll differently as to how serious they think this is. The saddest thing in the world is that he set up the governors that are basically his devotees. When the virus comes to them, guess who's going to be hurt? Because guess where those governors are? Those governors are in the South, where our people are.
Well, and one of the things that we're now finding out, that the drug that he keeps touting, we now know that he has an equity stake or an investment in the company that makes this. You would think you might want to disclose that. I mean, so now we see all of a sudden why Donald Trump has been touting this drug, because he can benefit financially.
Well, it's the same way that when we passed the $500 billion $500 billion for businesses, he didn't want any oversight at all. As a matter of fact, when the issue of congressional oversight was raised, he said, that's not needed. I can provide the oversight. It just gets more and more absurd every day. But the problem is now, we've put up with his madness for the last 3 years, but now his madness is killing people. And the idea that the United States would be so far behind the rest of the world, this is a shameful moment in our history.
Congresswoman Karen Bass, last question for you. I am hearing from a number of African-American business owners who have talked about the difficulties to be able to access these loans. I saw one story where, in fact, this was a Trump supporter. I saw a tweet. This person was it was almost the 18,000 person on the phone line. Difficult getting through. I also talked to another small business owner who said that these major businesses are the ones lining up. And now what they've also done is the way they've now qualified a lot of these major companies that have more than 500 employees, they're now designating if you have individual restaurants. And so they're sort of applying that way. And then the last point, the banks are really helping the largest customers. And so really the small businesses are getting screwed. What's going to happen here? Because that's the lifeblood of America, these small businesses.
Well, and not only that, it's the lifeblood, in our communities too. Well, if this crisis were to end in a month, my concern is that a lot of jobs where people are laid off, the businesses won't exist anymore. We're still trying to recover from the 2008 recession when we lost so much of our home ownership. And now to have this happen, so you're talking about small businesses, you're also talking about our churches who are not eligible for the small business loans unless they have a nonprofit. So I will tell you, though, Roland, that when you have a crisis like this, you have to pass legislation immediately. You have to run and you have to put a finger in that dam because it's about to break. But once you do that, then you need to see, well, what are the consequences of the legislation you passed? Did it help anybody? So now that we see problems, we can go back. I do believe that we'll have another bill by the end of the year. We know that everybody is having problems with this. And so I'm hoping that in the next legislative effort that we'll be able to do this. But like I said a few minutes ago, I am worried that the length of time it takes to do these things, that our small businesses won't be able to survive in the interim. So I'm deeply concerned about that.
All right, then. Congresswoman Karen Bass, we surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications.